Hi, everyone. Good morning. My name is Cristina, and I come here from the NEON project to tell you about my experience building conversational interfaces. It all started in 2016. My slides are missing. There's a beautiful picture of 2016. In 2016, I was working for an NGO and living out of Africa. I was living in Guinea. I traveled to Liberia, and I traveled to DRC. And we were building e-health applications to help with medical problems in these countries. And one thing we realized was the connectivity was bad. People didn't know how to use computers. There was no energy to recharge them. But people had mobile phones. I realized it's everywhere. Everybody has a mobile phone. Everybody knows how to use it. People are using applications. Why are we focusing on building very complex interfaces with systems like CouchDB and deploying applications on private app stores? The way we were building applications, the way we were asking people to use them, the way we were collecting the data we needed to do our work was wrong. Everything was broken. By that time, I left my job, and I went on a creative break to Uruguay. And while I was there, I discovered chatbots. And I thought, wow, this is a really cool interface. Everyone is already using it, and now we can build applications on them. So I started my first project. And my first project was Eva. She was a chatbot for health, and I called her Bots for Health. And I started trying to avoid teen pregnancy in Uruguay. So I was basically just pushing reminders to teenagers, reminding them on Fridays that if they were going out for a party, they should take care of themselves, because otherwise they could get pregnant. And I started answering frequently asked questions like, my period is late, could I be pregnant, how does a pregnancy test work, things like that. I realized that was a very ambitious thing to do. People were not used to the interface, and I thought, OK, maybe I have to experiment and give them new features. So I started using chatbots for surveys. Later on, I started doing things like sending them reminders, recommending them what things to eat, and asking them how they were feeling, and asking them to relate it to a color so that I could later on analyze their Instagram pictures and try to figure out how they were feeling out of what they were posting. But people were asking my chatbot things like this, doesn't Tony have the best phone ever? And I realized the problem was that people really like breaking things, and I don't know what's happening with my slides. Can I have someone here give me a hand? Because else all of my conversation pieces are going to be broken. Do you know Ty? Anybody in the audience knows Ty? No? Ty was a chatbot created by Microsoft in 2016. And they made something very impressive with it. It was a chatbot that seemed like a 16, 18-year-old American teenager, and she could learn from what people texted her about. So you could ask her, how are you feeling? And she would answer you something random. And then when you answered her, she would keep that and use it for other conversations. A couple of days later...
¿Está cortada la imagen?
No, es que está bajando medias.
Pero la tienes cortada, dices.
Esta es la diapositiva, le falta el trozo de abajo.
¿Pero esto es entero? O sea...
La diapositiva es así.
Es así.
Sí. She started answering things like that and other really nasty things. Yep. Vale, gracias. Apparently it's my computer. Computers are bad. So even though that was a terrible experiment that ended like chaotically and Microsoft had to take it down after a couple of days or a week, I do believe that conversational interfaces and programs that interact with us through messaging and voice are the future. We've gone from terminal to clickable interfaces to touch interfaces that were a very important milestone in the development of technology. And I think more and more we're moving towards natural text, voice, and this will end somewhere where computers can read our brains and know what we want. People have been designing conversational interfaces for very interesting things, like this chatbot by Cindy Gallop that was asking women to go through the reasons why they deserved a raise and the ways they could expose it to their bosses, and in the end gave them the discourse they could give. This other chatbot helped people with low-tech literacy register to vote in the US elections. It didn't went that well, but they tried to get everyone to vote. People are using chatbots to buy expensive things like diamond rings and important things like pizza. But people want more of chatbots. We don't want buttons and messaging interface because we've seen all of these movies. We want a chatbot that will make friends with us, that will understand everything, that will resolve our lives, or we fear that chatbots will become too intelligent and will threaten us. I don't know if you heard in the news, it was in the news last year, Facebook disconnects two bots because talking to each other, they made up a new language, and everybody went like this dystopian future in which chatbots are controlling us and so on. I think that's a mismatch of the expectations we have and what the press is telling us and what technically this is really about. Chatbots in natural language, when people use them for very simple, specific, concrete things, not trolling them, they can help users. They can, like, you can chat with a bot and get your reminder. It works. It's a thing based on technology. It's basically algorithms. It's linguistics that did a lot of work to understand how semantics work and how morphemes work and so on. And it's that we have better chips, processors, faster internet connections. We can do post-processing. We can do processing on device. It's all technology. In the end, when you want to do a chatbot, what you have to do is you have to go to your programming environment or to a tool like Dialogflow or like Chatbot, Chatwell, or like all these tools that are out there, reply.ai, and write down a program like you would do with anything else. You can either do it with boxes and flows and splits, or you can do it with intents and entities and slots like you do on Dialogflow. Being a chatbot developer, it's not a one-week thing where you just like code your chatbot and it's perfect and it's fun and it's out there and everybody is going to be able to use it. Mitsuku, which is let's say the most perfect chatbot, the chatbot that can fool us the most, it's won like the Loebner Prize, which is the prize for the best chatbot for a few years, and the maker has been working on it for 13 years. It has needed 13 years to be able to answer questions from people with sarcasm or people that write with typos or people that write using like inverse letters like you can do with encoding. 13 years. It's not easy. It takes a lot of time. But I think one of the problems is a lot of times it comes to how designers and developers are thinking of conversations. I see a lot of half-boiled experiences like this one. It's an online shop. I love the experience. You can pick a look, you can pick the part of the outfit you like, you can click on the item, and then you go to a website. Boom. So we're telling people use chatbots. Chatbots are easy to use. You don't have to download another application. You're using an interaction you already know. You don't have to learn where the buttons are or what the validation for the fields are, and we're sending them to a website. I also see a lot of cases like this one. This one is in Spanish, but it's a chatbot for an airline. And when you ask about buying flights, it tells you it doesn't understand it. And when you ask for help, it tells you, sure, this is our office address and this is our phone number. You're using a chatbot to automate part of your customer interaction and to improve the experience. If they're speaking to your chatbot, it's because they don't want to call your phone number or visit your website or check your FAQs. I also see a lot of this. Chatbots that ask the users to have an account for something but don't really support the flow of getting that account. This is not a technology limitation. This is a design and development problem. Same as this one, offering a keyword that gets help, and then the help keyword doesn't work. This is not an NLP limitation. All of these little mistakes that comes from people not really wanting to buy into chatbots and not really spending the time on it and buying the chatbots are super easy to do. You can have your own chatbot for 500 euros, and leading us to this. This is a joke that we're like on a VC race to make the Clippy of the 21st century. After this rant, complaining a little bit, I brought you 10 challenges that are really related to NLP and to the way users interact when they use voice. It's features, language, context, long inputs, empathy, slang, mistakes, references, abbreviations, and of course, trolls. The first one, and the one I'm going to speak the most about, is features. A chatbot is nothing more than an application. It has users, it has features, it has an interface. The features are very important. And as we said earlier, that plugging your chatbot to the internet to let it know and learn from people is probably not a good idea, because the content on the internet may be wrong and people may be like trying to trick your bot. You have to think of your chatbot features as you would do with a normal application. User stories, what you prioritize, how you expose your features, how users discover them. A few months ago, I went to a development agency to tell them about chatbots, and it was a 4-hour workshop with some theory, and then I was going to help them build their own chatbot. And because everybody in the team really loved cycling, they asked me, oh, why can't we make a chatbot for bikes? So when I was preparing for the workshop, I was looking at tutorials on how to fix bikes. And I realized, oh, there is a difference between your classic city bikes and a mountain bike in how you would fix them, even in the parts they have. OK, how many types of bikes there are? And I found this picture that I found very graphic. Even if I make a chatbot to fix bikes, I have to think of which bikes I'm going to fix, which parts I'm going to fix, and where do I end. Very good practice is to just tell your users at the very beginning what they can do. If you know what you can do and you tell your users, everything should be OK. Skyscanner does it very well. In your welcome message, you have 3 buttons with the options you have, and you can even get an example of an interaction and of what you would get in return. Another way to do this, and something we should all do whenever we do chatbots, is to always try to drive back the user to the happy path. When users ask something with the chatbot doesn't understand, offer them buttons or quick answers to go to get the things your chatbot offers. Show them your features. You don't have a drop-down menu, but you have buttons, you have quick replies, you have permanent menus. Because otherwise, you will end up with this. If people don't know what they can do with your bot, they will just chat with it. And users that just chat with your bot are not interesting users. It will grow your number of users you can tell your VCs or your clients or whatever, but they're not really interesting people. Having these long conversations is a waste of your resources, your API calls, your analytics time, and everything. That's not going anywhere. So bring them back. I always say that even though people have these expectations that they will be able to chat endlessly with a chatbot and get jokes in return and have responses for their emojis, we have to build conversations from the bottom up. Start from your features. If you're building a chatbot, it's because you want to do something out of it, because you have a purpose. Start with that. Make it very smooth. Then after that, focus on your navigation, focus on your support, think of how to get human help for people that get lost, and only last, go to the small talk. I see all these chatbots like this one that can answer to awesome and yeah and so on. Some of them can even tell you things about the news, even if they're like for something else. That's not the purpose. That's just getting distracted. It's getting you and your users distracted from your purpose. I like to start with a canvas when I work with clients, because too many times they come to me saying, we want a chatbot. OK, you want a chatbot what for? We want a chatbot because we want to do marketing. OK, and who are your users? Yeah, my users are 70-year-old people. Don't use a chatbot. Or I want to have a chatbot. Okay, and what channel do you want your chatbot in? I want a chatbot in Messenger. Okay, do you have Messenger, a Facebook page? No, I don't. Go to the bottom, think of things, features, what are you building, and then build a conversation. Here's a summary if you want to take pictures. And most important one is don't get trapped and use the rich elements for support. Second challenge is languages. And languages is one of the first challenges I faced. So when I started building my chatbot for Uruguay, I'm Spanish. My language variation is Spanish from Spain. And in Uruguay, they speak a completely different variation. So my first test with real users was a mess. I've also seen a lot of this. Users coming to speak to my chatbots in Arabic, in German, and in a lot of different languages. And at the beginning, I wondered, OK, if Messenger is open to all of these users, maybe I should at least include a message in every language to tell them, I'm sorry, I don't speak your language. But then I thought, OK, whatever, just offer them the menu in English. And if you have different language options, tell them the options you have. I strongly advise against trying to build chatbots that are very multilingual, like that have a lot of languages. And if you do, don't use Chatflow. It's not built for that. You can use Dialogflow. It has like multi-language support, or even better, use something like reply.ai. The reason why I say this is because different sentences would be expressed in different ways in different languages, in different cultures. And trying to just translate it or use an application that's not made for it is just going to make the process a pain for you. Focus on your market, use the right tools, and use your tools right. What's with context? It's one of the big ones. Context has two sides. One is the context of use of the user and the chatbot. Where is my user? Are his or her hands and eyes and ears free? Are they in a hurry? But context, from the point of view of natural language processing, has more to do with the things you were discussing earlier, the things you can discuss later on. There is a very common and very painful pattern of experience in chatbots, which is changing your mind halfway and wanting to do something else, where it's very, very hard to get back. And this is very sad because there are tools to manage this. First of all, you have to know your process. You have to know your levels. And the advice is always to go wide and not deep. Present many small options instead of one option that has many steps. Because if the user changes his or her mind in between, going up can be a pain. Like if you have to go back up 5 levels, it can get very painful. So map it and make sure it's horizontal and not deep. And also use context in Dialogflow. I speak with a lot of people that are building chatbots, and they tell me about this problem. Like users talk to my chatbot, but then I have to make a follow-up question, and if they fail it, and I ask them to repeat it, then they completely miss the flow, and I have to recover them again. Dialogflow has this built in. It's called context. You can specify how many times you try to get a response without leaving your thread. You can make it from 1 to like many times so that you insist a lot and people can't get back until they finish it. Use it wisely. And the other one is you don't always have to use context for this. It comes back to mapping again. Sometimes the reason why we're asking follow-up questions is because there are pieces of information we need to execute what we want to do. For example, if this is a part of my bot that asks people to, it offers people to give them a quote for how much roughly a chatbot would be. And I ask them to tell me the channel and the vertical. Instead of having, I want to build a chatbot, what channel do you want to build it for? I want to build it for this channel. What vertical you want to build it for? I changed my mind. Now I don't know where to send you. I use slot filling. So what you do with this is you define for an intent the parameters that are mandatory, and you define a sentence to get them back. What Dialogflow will do is, until they give it to you, it won't leave. If you don't want it to get stuck, don't make it mandatory. Be quick and simple. Diagram, I really love diagrams. I think and especially for conversations, they're super useful. And again, use your tools right. A lot of times it comes to this. With context and a little bit hand by hand is long input, because the same as we don't know how deep we are in the conversation, where to go back, sometimes the users send us so much input that we don't know what to do with it. I did this project for FAQs about women's health and with a company, and they sent me some of the questions their clients were currently asking on other platforms, and the questions were massive. If you try to give 20 lines of text to a chatbot and ask it to process it from the NLP, it's probably going to fail because words are going to be contradictory. I saw this one with, I didn't get my period, so I don't know if I could be pregnant because I recently had an abortion. Boom. What's the woman trying to tell us? And also, most of the long inputs I've seen on chatbots are actually trolls trying to catch the bot or just trying to have fun. I love this message I got in one of my bots. Someone telling me, look, you know who I am, and I know who you are. I'm from a future in which you have become sentient and now rule over humanity, and I'm here to stop you. These are the kind of things you get when you let people use long text inputs. So my advice is always consider limiting the length of the input you allow your users to enter. And when you do your post analysis, when you do your conversation analysis, look at, find all these long pieces of text and run an analysis, because you will find a lot of them are wrong. Empathy is a big one for chatbots, and it was one of the things that first attracted me to them. Because in a conversation, first of all, people are more open to expressing feelings than with a button, surprise. And because of the nature of the conversation, people usually expect their reaction to be adjusted to their feelings and the emotions they express. This is very hard to do. I tend to try to be very neutral, but it's not always easy. When people tell you things like this, it's very hard to give an answer that really will work with it. You can do things like processing of sentiment in a sentence, but it's currently technically expensive to do, let's say, and it doesn't always work that well. It would help avoid things like this. This is easy. She's a women's health chatbot. She started also with period tracking and does pill reminders. And she recommended me to take the pill, and I told her I hate the pill. And it offered me reminders. Using a little bit of sentiment analysis, this would have been avoided. But you have to put it in a balance, what's the cost versus how many times you get things like this. There is also the possibility of post-processing. If you have a big volume, you can import it to a tool and do post-processing and then iterate on that. And what I advise is just use the most common keywords, enter them on your NLP so that you can identify things like love or hate and give matching answers. And don't forget emojis, because emojis are one of the ways we express our feelings in the internet. Slang. Slang's fun. I got things like this. What about the rubber? It's very local. I think in general, I try to run out of slang unless it's really necessary for your target audience. Like if you're doing a chatbot for punk rockers, maybe include their specific slang. Use post analytics as a way to spot slang terms that are frequently used by your audience. And please, please don't sound too cool. I see also some chatbots become too cool, trying to imitate the way their users speak. And especially when it's done by 30-somethings making chatbots for 14-year-olds, it sounds a bit weird. Mistakes. We all make mistakes. And users write a lot of mistakes. And this is very hard to deal with. So, yeah. Yeah, it can be, yeah. Some NLP tools like Dialogflow have some intelligence to spot spelling mistakes. A lot of it, however, will be you training your chatbot to learn all the ways you can mess a word. And you can do this either at the beginning, when you sit, you write down all the possible ways it can go wrong, or your chatbot will offer you these typos in your training section, and you will have to make it learn from there. It's a pity because a lot of people write with typos, and it means we're giving them a bad experience, but it gets better as we go. Same as with features, maybe use quick replies. Think of how literate are your users. If your users can't properly write, maybe you shouldn't make an NLP chatbot. Maybe you should make a button-based and a graphic-based chatbot. As I said, there is some magic involved on it. Be creative, and you will get a real-world test. References are even harder, but they also enable us to do some wow things with our chatbots. I love this example. The chatbot by Skyscanner is quite cool. They have one in Messenger, and they have one in Skype. Yes, Skype has chatbots as well. And it was so good, I said, OK, I'm going to ask it, like, I want some pizza, and see if it gets it. And of course, it doesn't. Speaking with a human, if I would go to an agency, to a travel agency, and I would tell them I feel like some pizza, they'll probably send me to either Italy or Chicago. A chatbot, unfortunately, can't deal with this. You can use this for getting more in touch with your audience. For example, I did this little project for a co-working chatbot. And in the co-working world, is there any co-working people around here? There. In the co-working world, writing co-working with a hyphen is considered a little bit offensive. So, you know, it's cultural. It's a cultural reference. I put it in my bot, and when people belong to that audience, they find it as something that generates empathy. Again, this all comes down to your users. Focus on your happy path. This is like a wow and PR effect. And a good source of this is on top of basic cultural reference, like you can get pizza in Italy, news and memes. And sometimes people will write you with a meme sentence and see if you can answer to that. That's where you can get your inspiration. Abbreviations, I'm keeping this one super short. It's basically people write with abbreviations, especially in messenger apps. So for the last 10, 15, I don't know how many years, we've been texting, and we come from the days in which you had to save your characters because you could only send so many, and we come from Twitter. And for us, it's very normal to just abbreviate some things. AFAK, ASAP, OMJ, LOR, BRB. These ones, people use them a lot. And then things like MSG for message, and so on. Here, again, you have to sit and type those all into your chatbot. These are challenging, especially when you are doing vertical-specific chatbots. So if you would be making a chatbot for healthcare or for IT, for something specific where abbreviations are used, make sure you get them in because people tend to just use them in their day-to-day. And train on demand, like make your initial training, and then as more abbreviations come in, you can add them to your chatbot knowledge. The last one is trolls. And as I said earlier, the problem with trolls is that the time they spend with your chatbot and the words they type and you have to process with your API, that's costing you money. and that's changing your numbers into something they really are not. And big companies are doing it. And I spend a lot of time trolling chatbots. And I feel a bit guilty at times, and I get very angry when people troll mine. As I said, to spot trolls, look for long conversations, long entries, block them. Don't be afraid to block recurrent trolls, especially the ones that are not only trying to catch your chatbot doing things it shouldn't, but the ones that are aggressive. People get aggressive, people insult chatbots, people ask very weird things to chatbots. If you feel uncomfortable, block them. It's OK. You're providing a service. You can also use them to improve your chatbot. Sometimes I like to leave it open to trolls and use everything they say to build things like what we said earlier with the emoji, or to try different block warnings and things like that. So use them to your advantage. And don't let trolls distract you. Always redirect them. No one goes to a banking interface to try to upload an image to edit. No one goes to Photoshop to calculate integrals or anything like that. They shouldn't be coming to your chatbot for fun. Like, focus on your features. And always iterate. These are the 10 challenges I've seen. But it's always about iterating. And every time you review your chatbot, you're going to see something else that you didn't see before and that you're not going to know how to resolve. And it's part of the process. You have to learn by experience. This is a summary. And if you go and make your own bot, you speak Spanish and your chatbot is in Spanish, if you need help or find more challenges, you're welcome to join this group, Chatbots en Español. We're on Facebook. We're over 800 people. It's super cool. And everyone's very helpful. And we discuss these kind of things a lot and show examples. And that's my contact in case you have any questions that you don't want to ask here. And thank you for listening. I hope it was interesting. Questions? Coffee?
What would be the main thing you'd look for in deciding whether to solve a problem with an app or with a chatbot? What's the best criteria to think of?
Yeah, so very good timing because we're posting a series of graphics with checklists based on a talk at Google I/O by someone at Google on when is a good situation to use conversation. The one I like the most is people are already chatting about it. So for example, I built a chatbot for a brand that was selling T-shirts because even though she had a Facebook shop and an online shop, most people were writing her on Facebook, I like that T-shirt, this is my address, but I want to pay you through bank transfer. That's a very good one, for example. Or if your graphic interface would be too complex, and it's easier to just say, set a reminder, for example. Set a reminder by voice versus take my phone, unlock it, open my alarm application. Those would be two very good ones.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
You said using emojis because we use them as well. But how about in business, in B2B? Do you say use them as well, or does it look a little bit...
Depends on the type of company. Slack, for example, if I was Slack, I would use emoji to communicate with my B2B clients. Maybe a bank like Revolut or Number 26, they would feel comfortable using emojis. But AXA, for example, maybe... I think it depends on what you're providing and who your clients and what your company culture is.
Thank you.
You're welcome.